Released in cinemas in the year 1979, starring Sigourney Weaver, written by Dan O'Bannon and directed by Ridley Scott, Alien was the first in the Alien series of movies, a film series that is still ongoing to this day in the year 2024, 45 years later. With the latest entry, Alien Romulus, coming soon at the time of making this video, I thought I'd take a retrospective look at this horror science fiction classic, the birth of one of my favourite entertainment franchises of all time. So before we get started, the version I watched for this review was the 4K Blu-ray, but I have also watched it previously on regular Blu-ray, DVD and VHS. The 4K version of the film looks great and is possibly the highest quality way to watch it, and I do find these older movies shot on film do upscale to high definition really well, compared to modern movies where I can barely even tell the difference between the DVD and high def versions. That being said, if you were wondering whether it's worth upgrading to the 4K version from the standard Blu-ray release, I'd say honestly it's not really worth it, as I didn't notice any real tangible difference, so I'd recommend the 4K version if you're upgrading from the DVD, or if you are a really die-hard fan who has to have the absolute most modern version to watch. This is coming from somewhat of a casual viewer when it comes to movies. I'm not into the technical side of film at all, so I'm sure there are many actual differences between the Blu-ray and 4K if you compare them directly side by side, but for your average guy, both versions are fine. A hot topic when it comes to the 4K release of the sequel Aliens is the level of film grain and the technique used to remove it, that being AI. But if that's a concern for you when it comes to this movie, I can say that here there is still a lot of grain, so if you prefer that look, you'll like the 4K edition of Alien, the original. The cut I chose to watch here was the theatrical version. I have seen the director's cut, which adds some unused footage, but while that is cool, I do find it does slow the pace a bit, and that the theatrical version flows better and is a bit tighter, so it's the version I personally prefer for repeat viewings. So onto the film itself. When the crew of the space tug Nostromo responds to a distress signal from a barren planet, they discover a mysterious life form that breeds within human hosts. The acid-blooded extraterrestrial proves to be the ultimate adversary as crew members battle to stay alive and prevent the deadly creature from reaching Earth. When it comes to presentation, Alien has top-notch atmosphere and immersion, with the set design looking absolutely amazing, even better and more interesting to look at than most movies today. The majority of the film takes place within spaceship interiors, which have, by today's standard, a retro-futuristic look, but back when the film was first made, it wasn't meant to be retro-futuristic, it was just futuristic. But now, being 45 years later, the 70s idea of futuristic looks dated now. There are tube screens with green monochrome text, which are the main offenders, so some suspension of disbelief is required, but for the most part, the look still works. This is helped especially with it being a very industrial area, that of a functioning workhorse of a spaceship, which actually has a very mundane purpose. The ship, the Nostromo, is essentially a deep space version of a tugboat towing an oil rig behind it, which is actually a more interesting and original idea I find than a super slick advanced scientific vessel. Here we have something a bit more mundane, but makes it more grounded and believable. The crew and their ship were meant to be, and are often described as, truckers in space. We also do have a part on the surface of the planet, a desolate uninhabited wasteland which looks very convincing, and inside the derelict, an alien ship not of the alien from this movie, but that of a mysterious intelligent species who are only hinted at with a brief look at a fossilised body of one of them, which would have their own film Prometheus in 2012. The quality of acting in the film is very good, everyone's performance is believable and the characterisation is top notch. Every character is distinct and have their own personality. You will remember everyone due to not only that, but also how they each have their own unique appearance. They are also memorable for their actions, whether it being something they did or said. You'll remember each of the roles they played in the story. Ellen Ripley is the main character of the movie. What I find interesting is how, usually in similar films, the main character will be the leader of the group, such as Dutch in Predator for example. He is without a doubt the biggest and baddest, and is the leader, and the one who survives and wins at the end of the film. But here with Ripley, she is not at the top of the pecking order, but says herself out of all of the crew of 7, technically she is the 3rd in command, so around the middle. She's not in charge, but not at the bottom either. She is subservient to Dallas and Kane, but above the rest. So when they're both killed, Ripley ends up as the reluctant leader of the group. I found her to be likeable and believable as a sort of every woman, not almost superhuman like if I use Predator again as an example, but how she's just an ordinary person who is a fish out of water in this situation. So briefly going over the other characters, we have Kane. He is the one to be face-hugged and host to the xenomorph. Obviously, he is most known for the chestburster scene, which is one of cinema's most scariest moments. Brett, who is the assistant technician and at the bottom of the totem pole, he is not in the film for too long, but is known for being a kind of surly repairman kind of type, and half of what he says is the word right in agreement with the first technician Parker, kind of like he's his sidekick. Parker, the other technician, is similar to Brett, being a kind of grumpy maintenance guy kind of character, but he is a bit more abrasive towards the beginning of the film before the alien shows up. He is always bringing up and arguing about him and Brett getting their fair share of the money from their cargo, but something I noticed is that his good qualities come out as things start getting serious, as he seems to step up and shows a lot of bravery, even saving Ripley from the android and tries to save Lambert from the alien. Dallas is the ship's captain and the leader towards the beginning, but interestingly is one of the first to go, cutting the head off the snake, and makes the situation seem even tougher. Ash is the ship's science officer, and suspiciously is a last-minute replacement for the usual person who'd fill this spot. He also has some tension with Ripley as he undermines her by letting the contaminated Kane back into the ship when she was trying to follow protocol, and she is suspicious of him and doesn't trust him. Well, it turns out he is actually an android and has been placed there by the company, as they are aware of the xenomorph to some degree and want him to bring it back to Earth for them. And Lambert is the navigation officer, who is the weak link of the group and goes hysterical under pressure, but I think she is grounded in reality because of this, as in a situation like this, probably most people would react that way. And the main bad guy, the alien, affectionately known as the big chap among fans. The xenomorph is an alien lifeform created by artist H.R. Giger, adapted from his artwork called Biomechanics, a fusion of the organic and inorganic. The creature begins as an egg which opens, releasing a facehugger, which is, in my opinion, the most disturbing creature of any work of fiction, which jumps onto and latches to a human or other animal's face and forces a proboscis down their throat, laying an embryo for the main alien inside them. Once its job is done, it falls off and dies, making the crew think the worst is behind them, but eventually the infant alien known as a chest burster will erupt from the host's body like a parasitic insect or something, which then grows into an adult xenomorph called a drone. The alien is 7 to 8 feet tall and black in colour, with a long head and tail. It has a deadly inner jaw which it uses to attack people, and seems to do nothing but kill anything in sight, or if it doesn't kill them outright, it'll bring them back to its hive to be a host for another xenomorph. And if that weren't bad enough, the thing has acid for blood, something that adds an extra layer of danger to the creature. Even if you manage to hurt it, you'll probably still come off worse. One of the most iconic, if not the most iconic, sci-fi creature, and for good reason. Alien is one of the best sci-fi films out there. It combines the genre with horror and is kinda like a slasher set in space. The characters act very natural and organic, something I feel is missing in a lot of films today. There's something different between how people acted in older films versus modern films. Also, the creature effects are very impressive and some parts look lifelike. For example, the facehugger when it's on Kane's face looks alive, and then when it's fully formed it has lots of interesting and memorable details and features, like the inner jaw, its head and its acidic blood. The way the film is paced is fairly gradual, but while maintaining interest, it is more subdued and intelligent than other movies and takes time to build tension. If you think to how they first are stuck on the planet with the alien initially, their ship has a bad landing, but is more realistic where one of the landing legs is damaged rather than the whole ship just spiralling out of control and erupting into flames. Also, how the creature doesn't just roam around in the open like a mindless beast, but it uses the ventilation system to find its way around and hides in the shadows until the time is right to strike, showing how it actually is a very smart monster. If you went into the film blind, imagine the chestburster scene if you knew nothing about the film, how crazy that must have been seeing it back in the day. 1979 was a bit before my time, actually over a decade before I was even born, so I didn't see it when it first came out, but actually my mum did see it in the cinema when it first released when she would have been about 12 or 13 years old, and back then, when not much like this had been done before, it was one of the creepiest movies out there. She told me afterwards, in the evening when it was dark on the way home, she had to run from the bus stop all the way home afterwards without stopping in case the alien was hiding somewhere. Something I think was a good decision is how they actually had more shots of the alien filmed, but they decided to cut them to keep the creature more mysterious and leave you to fill in a lot of the blanks with your own imagination. This, I feel, really added to the film, like in Jaws how you only get brief glimpses of the shark, but it works in the film's favour. Some extended death scenes are out there if you search for them, like Brett's death, and where you were going to see him and Dallas attached to the hive resin being transformed into eggs, which before the Queen was introduced in the second film, was actually going to be the explanation how the eggs are formed. I would give Alien a 10 out of 10 score as it is so iconic and was the first in a lot of things, even though I would say it doesn't quite have the rewatchability of its sequel Aliens, it is still a movie I revisit every now and then. I really hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on Alien. Make sure to give the video a like if you did, and you can become a member for early access to select videos and for extra videos exclusive to members, which I'll be doing more often. Next review out will be Aliens, as I'll be going in order of release, or if you're watching this before then and you can't wait, you can check out my review of Alien vs Predator, which I've already reviewed, or my reviews of the Predator movies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.